Good evening. I would like to call the Personnel Committee meeting for the Frederick County School Board to order. The date is February 6th, and the time is 6:15 p.m. We have an agenda before us. Do I have a motion for approval?
I move we approve the agenda as written.
Second. The motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. I will now pass over to Dr. Hummer and his team.
All right, Mr. Chair, thank you so much, Mrs. Frakely or Mrs. Campbell. If you can go to the next slide for me, please, there. We do have 7 items for you this evening. These are all for information only. First couple items there are standing items. We want to provide you guys an update with our staffing, recruitment, retention, as well as our employee services. We also are going to provide you with an update to our HR Best Practices Learning Series. That's something that Mrs. Frakely and her department did last year, which was well received by our administrators, and that's something we're going to continue to do based on that feedback. We also started something new last year, which a lot of other divisions do, and we started this, which is a survey of intent. We want to get a good head start of how many staff are planning on staying, staff that might be on the fence that we can have conversations with. So it's a good recruitment tool to get a really good idea. There's no commitment to it. There's no hidden information that we're trying to get from this. It's just exactly that, to see how many staff that we have. So we'll go over that. We also have an update to our code of conduct, as well as an update to our human capital management overview, which you heard a little bit about that a second ago. So Mr. Chair, hand it over to Mrs. Frakely. Thank you.
All right, good evening. I just wanted to say first and foremost, I'm sorry Mr. Funes isn't here, but we wanted to thank him. He was previously our chair, and welcome Mr. Bell as our new chair of personnel. So just thanks to Mr. Funes for working with us, and we're excited to work with you, Mr. Bell. So thanks to the entire committee for showing up and paying attention and listening and asking such wonderful questions and your leadership around personnel committee. So I will now turn it over to Ms. Campbell to run through the staffing update.
Okay, good evening. We are going to go through our standing staffing update, starting with our professional vacancies. So you see a comparison as of January for this time last year and as of January 23rd of this year. And it looks pretty similar to what it has been. And then we have made a few little adjustments to this slide to show some information pertaining to the numbers for this year. So this is teaching vacancies by content area, but we have broken it out by elementary, middle school, and high school, as we discussed prior. And then with the groupings there, we've indicated what the vacancies specifically are. So still have special education at the top. And then similarly with our support vacancies, we've shown the information by level there for this year. Instructional assistants and bus drivers are still at the top. And then we've updated this information as of January 23rd to show how many vacancies we've filled. Teachers, administrators, and other professionals. And the transfers, just as a reminder, those are internal transfers, and then new hires are new to FCPS. And then we have our years of experience running tally for this year. Still, the 0 to 2 is our greatest number of new hires. And that concludes the updates. Do we have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. All right, and I will turn it over to the fabulous Rachel Rinker.
Did I say something wrong?
Hello, everyone. Welcome, Mr. Bell.
Hi.
So, I'm Scott. I'm sorry. So, I'll try to make it fast. I don't normally talk slow, so I'll roll through this. So always starting with celebrations. We've been visiting student teachers and new hires throughout the division. We've gotten great qualitative data from that, given us some really great insights on how we can improve. We have 7 job fairs. We booked one more since this has been created. We had a virtual career expo on January 23rd. It was very successful. Our first open house that was scheduled on December 4th was extremely successful. I didn't know how successful it would be, and I left and actually called Katie and Kristen and said, I cannot believe how successful that was. We got lots of interest, several employees, and a bunch of substitutes out of it, so really successful. We are working with GMU through a grant to provide the course to obtain provisional licensure for special education. We actually coupled with 2 other divisions to get this offering, and they had 24 slots, and Frederick County took 22 of the 24. We're in the planning phase of 6 pathways for teacher licensure at little to no cost, and we are currently working on pathway number 7. We have our March 1st FCPS Licensed Educator Career Fair coming, and it's always our most successful event. And we updated our substitute regulation to incentivize substitutes at 10 days instead of 20, which did match a lot of our surrounding divisions, and we've gotten great feedback from our substitutes about that.
Ms. Rinker, despite Ms. DeSantis' edict, I am going to ask a question. Could you go back a slide? So you partnered with 2 other divisions. What were the 2 other divisions?
Orange County and Clark.
Okay, thank you.
So I did want to give you just a little backstory about what these slides are. At a previous personnel committee, we were asked to break out years of experience of the hires that we have hired so far and where they came from. So just to kind of piggyback on what Ms. Frickley was saying about the system, I did want you to know that I manually had to pull up all of these applications. So of the 300 plus, I had to pull them up each one to get this data. It just kind of furthers the point for a need for something that just makes our processes more efficacious. So we did have 49 year 0 teachers that we hired this year so far. And so those are not included in this total. So this slide represents 1 to 5 years of experience and where they came from. And then we can just kind of go through the slides and you can see the different years of experience and where they came from. Are there any questions about that data? Okay. So I did want to point out something that I had several of our employees had asked, and then also I had some just conversations with people who are interested in the differences in elementary and secondary data. So if you looked back, which we don't have to go back, because you have access to the presentation, but if you look at the vacancies of the 18 special ed, 10 of those are in elementary, and our second highest vacancy rate is also in elementary. And so I analyzed the resignations by level from last year, and you can see that 172 of our resignations did come from the elementary level, and then only 110 from secondary. I did some quick math, and it looks like we actually have more students and more staff at the secondary level, so we're losing elementary folks more quickly and keeping those vacancies open longer. So that's just something to share that we're also working on for data analysis. And that shows the same data in a different way. Just 61% of our resignations from FY24 were from elementary and 39 from secondary. Wanted to share with you guys a brief overview. We have had some, I'll say, moderate success with the use of external contracted companies to fill vacancies that are in our critical needs that are completely vacant, meaning that there's no person in that vacancy, and the administrative team is working to fill that position every single day with someone. We are primarily working through Emergis Educational Staffing Company. We did our own version of kind of an RFP where we went and talked to 20 plus contracted companies and looked really closely at the price. So Emergis was the most reasonably priced, and so we have primarily been working with them. They are not our employees. They are employees of Emergis, so they are kind of like a short-term solution to a long-term problem. So they don't come in with any type of job security. They just come in to fill the void while we're actively recruiting for a vacancy. As an additional layer of safety, because they're not our employees, we have developed a process with Emergis that we are fingerprinting them in-house and reviewing their fingerprints in-house like we do employees, so that we know that who we're bringing into our schools are safe. Just to give some full transparency, because there are some there's some misinformation out there about contracted services. Number one, a contracted staff member has no job security, because we find someone to directly hire. That's always the goal, and we do communicate that with them up front. We do pay the company to not just pay the staff member, but also the company provides all the benefits, everything for them. So what we pay the staff member is not equivalent to the hourly rate of what that staff member makes. I think that might be all. I left my notes here. Did I miss anything? Any questions about that?
Am I allowed to add something?
No?
Please add.
Yes, Dr. Hummer.
I think there is an important piece to add, because although they are not technically our employee, but we want to treat them like they're our employee.
Sure.
So they are part of the school culture and the family atmosphere and all. They get an email and all that. But another piece is, which we do have happen, is if an employee loves Frederick County, which why wouldn't you, we can actually buy them out. And there is a price that is worked into the contract. We can buy them out, and then we would have them on as a staff member, which would save us money in the long run, which does happen. Just wanted to add that in there, that's that opportunity to do that.
I do have one, I'm curious about one thing. With these staff members coming into our facilities, we don't have any sort of insurance protecting us in the event that something happens. Is it the same as it would be for all other staff?
That is a fantastic question. So we actually have an MOU contract with them where we are protected from that. I don't know specifically what's in Emergis. I'm looking kind of at you, Caitlin.
I don't need details.
They cover their own
They cover
employees.
all
We
that.
have it.
Yes,
The only
yes.
thing that we do in-house is the fingerprinting, which is a part of our agreement with Emergis.
Right.
But they do all of their own, they cover all of their own employees.
Workman's
So,
compensation, all that
all
neat
of it.
stuff. Okay,
All of it.
thank you.
That's a great question.
Every once in a while.
Question, what are we spending on the fingerprinting of those employees?
Oh, I'm sorry, I should have added that. We don't pay for that either. The agreement is that we pay for it up front, and then the company reimburses us. That's a part of our agreement, is that we said we want them fingerprinted in-house, but we want you to pay for it. So they did. They agreed to that. Another good question.
Not as good as mine.
They were equally as good. So I just wanted to take a second and say thank you. It's a big ask to retain employees with just all of the things that exist, but it's a great place to work. So we want to thank everyone, because retention is the work of an entire community. So we wanted to thank our board, our superintendent, our amazing team, all of our staff members for making Frederick County a great place to work. I have the word retention attached to my title, and I'm working really hard to make sure that we have lots of high-level things in place, but it takes a collective effort, and just wanted to say thank you for the efforts to help our staff feel connected to their work and stay longer with us.
At the risk of Rachel passing out,
Don't.
I would just like to say, with a retention attached to her job title, she works extremely hard to make all of these things come to fruition. We started the year with no pathways, and now we have almost 7 pathways. Any chance I get, I like to remind people that our greatest retention tool is our staff, specifically. It is those hardworking people that show up day in and day out, that do good work for kids, that have a good experience, that then go tell their neighbors, friends, cousins, aunts, uncles that FCPS is a great place to work. So the fact that Rachel and the recruitment team and the retention team work so hard, and we're just getting started. Like, this is a new position for us. We just got her July 1 of last year, so she hasn't even been in her role a year yet. But to say that there's a dedicated laser focus on recruitment, retention, and engagement is an understatement. We'll get to it later, but the human capital management system plays a big part in freeing up time to allow our folks to do this good work. But it is a laser focus for us. And again, our greatest recruiting tool is a happy staff. So thank
That's very
you
true.
to everyone who pitches in on that.
Everybody.
Yes.
It's a team effort.
Thank you, Ms. Rinker.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. A focus on special education. We've been doing this every month. So the celebration is we only have 2 special education positions across the division without someone in them. We have either a long-term sub, or we were able to contract some external contracted employees. Update, we actually only have 1 at this juncture. So we were able to get, since this presentation was made, we are down to 1, which is huge. So it's not, essentially, it's not the long-term solution. We do still have those positions that are vacant, but at least we do have people in front of kids that are qualified. And then through the GMU EDSE 501 course that I discussed earlier, we have the potential to have 22 newly eligible qualified special education teacher applicants in our pool. So felt like that was a good celebration to bring back. We are working with our Office of Professional Learning. Once those folks, those 22, are provisionally licensed, that we're going to work, this is pathway 7, would be to go to full licensure, so that we don't just support them to provisional licensure, but we really support them all along the way to get them to full licensure so that we can keep them. We're also working with the Office of Special Instructional Services to determine the best use of contracted time. We know that our level 2 special education teachers need more meaningful training and support. We hired our specialized support coordinator, but we also are working really hard with them to talk about, within the contract time, how can we really give them the best supports so that we can keep our level 2 teachers, because we are turning many of those over.
Quick question.
Yeah.
For the 22 teachers that are taking this course, how long did we include in the, I guess, contract of this, or is it contracted that they have to serve a certain number of years at Frederick County Public Schools after receiving this education?
That's a great question. So we do always have an agreement with folks when we have money in the game. We don't have any money in this game except for, I think we're going to purchase a handful of textbooks, so 5 or 6 textbooks. But what we have done is we have said the agreement is that you will apply for open special education positions. And it's a little tricky, because we don't know for sure of those 22 that we would even potentially hire all 22 of them through the application
Sure.
process. So we want to make sure that their intent is to apply, and we are guaranteeing an interview for them. So that's the agreement, is that you intend to apply for next year.
See, I would disagree that we don't have any money in it. This opportunity wouldn't exist without us. And I'm wondering, obviously we can't guarantee them a position. We may not want them in that position, but we could guarantee them an interview, and that if they did indeed get hired, they would have to serve 2, 3, 4 years as a special ed teacher in our division as a benefit to them getting this free course.
This is the only course right now that we don't have that in
Sure.
in agreement with. So once they go to full licensure, if this group goes on to that pathway 7 I mentioned, that definitely would be the case, where they would be hired on, and then they would be committing to several years while we would help them get that full licensure.
Gotcha.
In addition to that, all of our other pathways, it's a 3-year commitment.
Okay.
So once they finish that, then they agree that they're going to be employed with Frederick County for 3 additional years.
Okay. Thank you.
So, quick recruiting plans, next steps. We're going to continue to attend job fairs. We have our next Community Connections, which is our in-person expo for just the community, February 25th. Continue individual meetings. We're continuing to do a lot of cross work with different departments to make sure that we are addressing teacher workload and burnout rate. We're really, focused on student teachers. This is a great season for student teachers. And we're actively working on job descriptions to help streamline functions across the division. When jobs are inequitable across the division, that can lead to, just a feeling of I'm doing more than the other person. So we're working on that. That's something that we're working on kind of on the background, but working on it hard. Any questions for me?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rinker.
All right. At this time, I'd like to invite Ms. Tashika Edwards-Johnson to the podium to discuss EAP.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for today. We want to make sure that we are just highlighting all of our employee benefits. We want to take a moment to emphasize the importance of our employee assistance program that we have. It is a free service to all of our FCPS employees and their family members residing inside their home. So it's not only just for them, but it's also for their family members inside their household. It allows individuals to be able to utilize resources like counseling. If you need therapy sessions, you can have up to 4 free sessions with a licensed therapist, as soon as I can get those words out. You can utilize it for resources towards fitness and sleep habits. They have work-life resources. If our employees are looking for different workplace skill resources, you can find out about conflict management, communication skill sets. If you're looking for financial advice, there's advice on budgeting, on identity theft protection programs. It also has discount shopping programs on there that can save up to 25%. So it has a lot of great resources. Additionally, it has legal resources, allows individuals to talk to counselors if they need advice on certain things, say, for example, small claims court, traffic violations. If you're looking for a free will application tool, they have that available too, so that you could start that process of figuring out how to produce a will if you're looking into that particular avenue. So there's a lot of great things that are available in our employee assistance program. It's a 1-800 number. It's a website. It's available on your mobile phones and on your computer devices. So it's something that we think that everyone should take advantage of if they have a moment to just dial in and look at it. Those are my services. Each month I'll make sure that there's a service that's available so that the community will know what's available through our employee benefits programs.
If I could just add that the work that Tashika and her team do is really critical from the standpoint of we give this information out to a lot of folks for a lot of different reasons. Her team is charged with benefits and leave assistance and employee relations issues. And so they're doing a lot of hands-on taking care of people. And part of what we can offer is this little educational nugget to learn more about EAP, and just really want to stress and reiterate that it is a benefit that our staff can contact us and talk more about. But just really wanted to give Tashika and her team the kudos that they deserve, because they work really, really hard to take care of people, and people are sharing, very specific, very private, intimate things about their lives, and they just do such great work in taking care of those folks. So we're happy to connect with people for any reason. Just come and talk to us, and we'll point you in the right direction. But this is a service that we can offer up front. And you can find this information, like Tashika said, I believe, on the website. You don't need to contact us or come to us, but you can find this on our website just by yourself. So
On the FCPS website as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
thank you, ma'am. I got it. Yeah, it's okay. All right. So this is a really quick touch point on HR's Best Practice Learning Series. Like Dr. Hummer said, we did this last year. We got to do this last year, which was awesome. This year, we are going to, instead of doing 3 2-hour sessions times 2, because we did principals and directors, and then we did a second wave with assistant principals and assistant directors, we're doing for each group 2 3-hour chunks. And I'll get to that here in a second. But Our focus for 2025 is on civility. That's the high-level topic that HR is speaking to. We chose that topic. It is frequently referenced in general HR practice. I know SHRM, the Society for Human Resources Management, recently did a series on civility. And this ties into what we're going to talk about in a few minutes, which is our employee code of conduct. The rest of what you see here is just that top 5 topics from the administrator survey. We put out a survey asking our administrators, that whole group that I just listed, what they want to hear about. And so these were the top 5 topics that came back: difficult conversations, documenting performance, socially charged issues, cultivating culture, and retention strategies. So we are in the process of developing now those learning sessions, which we're really, really excited about. This is some of the good strategic work that we love doing from the standpoint of making sure that we have the time to devote to creating something that is meaningful and impactful for our professionals, our educating professionals. So this is a PD for them, and it's really an opportunity for our team to connect with leadership. So we're super excited about that. Any questions about that? Our dates are going to look like last week of March, first week of April, that we're going to try to get these sessions in, so they're coming up.
No. You have a question?
I have a statement I would like to say.
All right.
I will allow it.
As you know, with everything that we
Abba
do,
will I.
we definitely want to extend the invitation that if any of you want to come and see any of these sessions, we can get you the time and dates, and you can come out and see the wonderful work that the HR department does and interact with some of our administrators. So,
Yeah.
we want to extend the invitation. You guys are always invited, so just let us know.
Thank you, Dr.
We know
Hammer.
people will let you in, so.
All right.
Any questions about that? And we can give you another update as we start to create material and give you feedback on how that goes and all that good stuff.
That would be great.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so as Dr. Hummer also said earlier, we put out a survey of intent. So this, we were a little late to the game last year, but we did it. But this year we backed it way up so that we can actually use the data. So we asked, beginning of January, what are your plans? We sent it out to everybody in the division. We asked what their plans were for the next school year, the upcoming school year, and this is what we got back. So January 10th, we sent that out. It was a turnaround time with a deadline of the 24th. We got a 60% response rate, which I'm always happy with in terms of making sure folks, we get a good sample and people are willing to speak up and let us know. You'll see the highlighted areas, those boxed in, dark boxed in spots are some high numbers for those groupings. Mm-hmm. So 0 to 5, we had a 45% response rate. And of those, that group, 88% said that they plan to come back. Now, this isn't a contract. We didn't, sign anything in blood or anything like that. So if things change, things change. But it was trying to take a temperature so that we can start forecasting and predicting where we think folks may or may not stay or go.
Yeah, it's very straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Any
From what I'm
questions?
seeing in all this data, and from what you all have said, I'm not seeing a mass exodus of staff from our division. Is that correct?
I would say so. I mean, I would say you're correct. We know that the turnover rate from the year prior when...
Wait, I'm sorry. He's correct that we don't have an exodus.
No, I'm not correct. I'm not
Okay,
seeing that in the
okay.
data
Just wanna
either.
make sure.
Yes, correct. I'm not seeing that in the data either. We had we did see our turnover rate go down, which mirrored the state. So I want to say our turnover rate 2 school years ago was roughly 16%, and we saw a decline in about 3%. So now we're sitting about 13, which again mirrored the state and what we saw at the state level. Anything over 10%, you don't love, but we're working on it. And so, these numbers, like I said, they're very preliminary, but they are good. They're positive.
Well, the reason I bring it up, there were several emails to me, and I've heard comments from other people that we were going to be facing a mass exodus, and that just has not been. So I just wanted to bring that out.
And with the work that Ms. Rinker and Tashika are doing, it's clear that it's working.
We're
It's-
trying really
the
hard.
teachers are not only coming here, but they're staying.
Yes. Yes.
I guess a little bit to Dr. Hummer, too.
We'll give them a little.
Yeah, a little.
Okay. So any questions about this?
No,
All right.
thank you.
Okay, great, perfect. Okay, so our code of conduct, communication. You all saw this over the series of several personnel committee meetings. We've socialized it with you. We've socialized it among a variety of groups and ways, and we'll get to that in a second. But here's where we are in terms of what you've seen already. So this was our plan, our strategic plan for the creation of and rollout, and we're in the communication phase. So that part is really important. This is something new and different for our division. And with anything like that, we want to be communicative so that people feel heard, their questions answered, and that we relay the intention of this code from our vantage point and what the real meaning and reason is for it, because oftentimes that can get confused at some point. So here's what we want to show you guys in terms of the work that went into the code. And what a code even is, right? Because it's something new. So the purpose of this code, of any employee code of conduct, is to be straightforward and to set and maintain reasonable standards for acceptable behavior for all the stakeholders in our organization. Basically, it's establishing that baseline expectation of how we're all supposed to show up to work. And that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So I just want to, assure everybody that this is not a new concept. It is not uncommon for organizations to have codes of conduct as part of their guiding documents. In fact, many divisions around us already had this in place, and we did not. So it really is part of, I guess you could say, good organizational management in terms of including a code in your guiding documents for how you're running your organization. This is the part that I just want to make sure that everybody, really takes to heart and hears from this team that worked super hard to put this together. The intention of the effort truly is to help promote and maintain a healthy positive work environment for everyone. And the way we do that is by being upfront and clear in those expectations so that we can in turn create that culture of respect and teamwork within FCPS. A code of conduct, while yes, it dictates behavior, it is, if done right and with positive intention, it is meant to be a tool to create that healthy work environment, and it's not meant to be punitive. There are consequences to holding people accountable, but the intention behind it is not a punitive one. It is to help create a positive culture.
And quite frankly, whenever you're working with children, having a simple code of conduct seems to be common sense to me.
Sure.
And the fact that we didn't have one prior to now, or what we're working on getting, is interesting. Anyway.
And like anything, we will work through it. So we welcome the feedback, and certainly keeping the dialogue and the communication open is important to us. So these are all the ways that we reached out and gathered feedback, because staff feedback was vital. We couldn't have prepared this process and gone through this process without staff feedback. So we did research other divisions, and we actually pulled a lot of language from other divisions that ended up in our code. So, borrowing that from existing codes that have already been written to formulate a draft is where we started. We then held 3 in-person feedback sessions here at the school board office, and the folks that were included in those sessions included a cross-section of staff across all work groups. So we were very intentional in, we needed those 3 sessions because our workforce is broad. And so in order to capture everybody, we had 3 in-person feedback sessions. They were also asked to complete a survey. Some did, some didn't. But we gathered a lot of qualitative data from those feedback sessions. We then issued a division-wide survey in one of our newsletters. We also featured an employee code of conduct at multiple personnel committee meetings. And then, of course, as folks were learning about the code of conduct through some various form that we'd put it out in, they would call and ask questions and ask to meet. So we had several meetings. We garnered informal feedback from those who reached out directly to us, because we certainly wanted to capture that. And then after soliciting all this feedback, we very much took into consideration a significant amount of the feedback and put that directly into the final draft. So I just want, the folks, watching at home in this, I know we're a blockbuster hit in personnel committee, but I can't stress that enough, that a lot of legwork went into getting this right and formulating this, and then taking that feedback and putting it straight back into the language.
Come on, we have tens of people watching.
Tens of people watching.
Oh.
Yes. Any questions that I can answer about our code of conduct right now? So it's live. Our code of conduct went live, and it has been communicated out through various ways beyond what we've already listed here. And so we're at the beginning of that communication strategy. It went out in one of our staff newsletters recently. It's going to go out in the HR staff newsletter. You were communicating about that tonight. It will be again socialized for administrators at our admin meeting, and I'm happy to have anybody contact me that wants to talk about it or discuss or ask questions or whatever. Our doors are always open to feedback. So
Thank you very much. Are there
Yes.
any questions, comments, statements? Thank you very much.
okay, great. All right, and I think maybe the last thing we're going to touch on, you guys got the preview in finance, but our human capital
This is awesome.
management system overview. And I want to stress, you could also see this called an HRIS, which is a human resources information system. But I wanted to stress the point that human capital management is all of our jobs. And so again, while this, the spearhead of the effort will live in HR, this is something that will impact all 3,000 of our staff in terms of efficiency and effectiveness and just plain trying to make things easier for everybody. So jumping in, just to be clear, what is it? Comprehensive integrated suite of software applications used to manage human capital resources throughout the entire employee life cycle. It's going to give us that data just, at the click of a button, where now we are pulling together spreadsheets, from olden days and pencil and paper. HR does a lot on paper right now. But again, we're not going to be the only department to benefit. In fact, it's not really going to be a department benefit to anyone. It's a comprehensive division-wide system improvement. So what that's really going to mean for folks is a big change culturally, from the way we've always done things. But that's what we've been charged to do, is do things in a different way when it makes sense, right? We're not going to iterate something just for the sake of iterating it, but this truly is a system-wide improvement. So we're hoping to partner closely with our friends in finance, all departments, but HR and finance work hand in hand in a lot of aspects. And so we're not making moves without them on the team and vice versa. So the point really is to see process improvement. Okay, so that's what an HCM is, and we'll get into a little bit more about the specifics here of what we could potentially look to streamline and improve. So in doing our research around systems, you might hear about big, a lot of larger, well, I shouldn't say larger, it's not really size dependent because it's about efficiency, but K-12 specific tools are few and far between. There are K-12 specific HCMs, which is where I've narrowed preliminary research right now. And so just doing some Googling and talking to some people high level, because again, we're not trying to step on toes with finance yet in terms of procurement. When we talk about things like going to RFP versus jumping on a rider, we want to make sure we're being strategic and following all the rules there. But this is just information anybody can pull down. The list of places that we could process improve I mean, these are some heavy hitters. When we talk about things specifically like performance management, I'm sure you've heard Dr. Hummer say before, we do that on the Google platform. It's clunky. Our administrators do not like it. We're the only division that is doing that currently, to our knowledge. So when we talk about, and that's just one aspect of the benefit. Learning, that's, tied into our professional development and us being able to push out learning tools. Our leave management, things like timekeeping. We do timekeeping currently on paper timesheets. We do benefits currently on paper applications. We do PA forms on paper. We do onboarding on paper. So when we talk about things that we could instantly improve, there is a long list. And those are things that everybody touches. If you're a department or a building that's hiring people, you're doing these things. Or if you're managing people, you're doing these things, which when you look at our budget, the majority of our budget goes to personnel. That's a lot of people management. This is a lot of efficiency that could help our folks out and be able to redirect their time to things that are more strategic. So that's really the point. So quick overview of what these benefits could look like, and I won't belabor, but I just want to let you know, specific to HR, right? We've talked about high level efficiency that this could bring the whole division. I can't stress that enough. But particular to the small but mighty HR team, when I touched on this earlier in finance, again, saying we don't have a dedicated licensure person. We don't have a dedicated sub-management person. We have people that do those jobs, and then they do other jobs on top of those. So just so you guys know, when we talk about best practice in industry standards, SHRM, Society for Human Resources Management, will tell you that for every 100 employees you have, and this goes back to Ms. Anderson's point about payroll and finance, right? She gave us those statistics earlier. For every 100 employees you have, SHRM recommends, and they're the industry standard, 1.7 HR professionals to take care of those 100 people. If we round it up, that's 2 HR professionals for every 100 of our 3,000 staff members. So you guys can do the math. If we rounded down and just said, for 1 to every 100, we would need a department of 30 people. We're a team of 10 currently. So our 10 folks are taking care of roughly 300 staff members per person on any given day. So things like this would absolutely revolutionize our processes from the standpoint of those who are charged with recruitment, retention, and engagement. Mm-hmm. So any questions there?
I mean, honestly, it's again, common sense.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you should still be using paper and pencil on anything.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're getting there. This is a huge step forward for the division, so we're beyond grateful that it's up for consideration and discussion. So,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any questions, concerns? No?
Team, did I miss anything? You want to throw anything? I mean, the floor is yours if you want to make the case. Okay. Doesn't sound like we got to make much more case. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Bell. Okay. So that's our recap. We've talked about a lot tonight. Any questions we can answer for you? It got very quiet in here.
Well, I'm just shocked when you use the term olden days, since I'm probably the only one in this room that remembers the olden days. I am.
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, if you don't mind, I'd love to invite you guys one more time. Rachel mentioned it, but Saturday, March 1st is our big job fair at Ayler. Am I correct? Okay. And Mr. Bell, we talked about school board member presence, and we talked also about Mr. Sturdivant attended our job fair last year, and it was a raging success, so thank you. But please, you're invited, and we'd love to see you, and we'll talk about what formalizing that could look like, perhaps.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. That's it.
Well, thank you very, very much. That I guess ends the business at hand. So
Mr. Chair, I move we adjourn.
I think I might second that. A motion has been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? All those signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Go Eagles.